Hello and welcome to the episode 69 of the Office Hours podcast. We're happy to welcome back Mo. We made sure that the record button was pressed this time and everything's in order. So, provided no catastrophic something happens, we should have the full picture the entire time. Hey Mo, how you been?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's just the really funny scenario, the last week where we
Hmm.
forgot that it was just a thing, and I hope it never happens
Did you
again.
get a little
And
like in your chest? You're like, oh shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but well, hopefully it never happens again.
Hmm.
So now I'm just very, very, very intentional, and but
You
it's
just
part of the
checklist.
experience.
Hmm.
Yeah, checklist. Make sure it doesn't happen again. Make sure it
Yeah,
doesn't happen
yeah.
again. And yeah, I haven't seen the picture of me that will be
It's
used.
it's fine. It's fine. It's a good picture. Don't worry. I was just teasing.
But I deserve it. Honestly, I deserve it. So yeah, hopefully we'll see. It gets to come out. Anyway, how you doing? How
Ah,
are you?
it's all right. Uh, we're kind of getting spring. We had a couple of sunny days. I went out, tried photographing some stuff. I got a new fancy lens. Well, not so fancy, but new anyway. So I went out
Oh
for
yeah,
to take some
the
pictures.
camera. Okay.
Yeah, and I managed to take two. One of them was pretty good. The other one was okay. So it's a very low yield endeavor so far. We gotta pump up my numbers.
Yeah. What do you do with the pictures? Do you just like save them or you sell them?
No, I don't sell them. I don't pretend to make good enough pictures to sell. I just kind of do it for fun. It hasn't been very um, directed, I guess. It's mostly just experimenting. So, I take a lot of pictures and maybe one or two are gonna end up being pretty decent, and a rest are. I still don't know enough about, like composition and light and like all these other things. I kind of
Mm-hmm.
just gotten used to, the mechanics of the camera, like the relationships between like the ISO and shutter speed and aperture and like all of these different things in terms of how they work. So now that these things are kind of in there and I can vaguely operate it relatively fast, now comes time for like composing the shot and like trying to figure out what it's going to look like. So right now it's just a lot of kind of experimenting.
Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough. I mean, it'd be nice if, because like I used to wonder like people who take like these pictures, like random abstract pictures. I don't know.
Hmm.
What do you
Hmm.
like to take pictures of? Like, are you a nature photographer or
I
where
have
would
I
you
have
put
a
yourself?
fair bit of that, and just sort of, maybe architectural, not so much. I think when people say architectural photography, they usually mean like photo shoots for like some realtor listing or something.
Of
Um,
course, it's lucrative, but
yes,
good.
yes, yes. But I want to get more into portraits probably as well because I find it really
Mm,
interesting. And there's a uh, couple of people who, when I look at their pictures, like, "Mm, this is nice." I wonder how they did that. It kind of prompted this whole thing of inquiry, because I was never much for photographs. I mean, I would photograph with my phone, but just like, oh, press a button
mm-hmm,
and kind of don't really
mm-hmm.
think twice about it. I had a couple of interesting shots every once in a while, not by design, mostly like by happenstance, but nonetheless. So after getting the setup for recording all this, the camera kind of doubles up as a, well, it's a
Mm,
photography camera, right? That just happens to
yeah,
do video in
to,
good quality.
yeah.
And that opened up this whole line of inquiry about photography related things and like cinema related things in terms of, you know, how stuff gets shot and whatnot. I was like, we were watching a movie a couple of days ago, and throughout, because it was really visually quite
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, and I was always thinking, it's like, I wonder, like what type of lens did they use here, and like how did they light the scene, and like what, like all of these things kind of start
Ooh,
popping
look
into
at
your head.
you.
Whereas before it would just be like completely,
Yeah, of
over
course.
over the head. So it's kind of cool, you know. It's kind of like this other hobby that I can develop if I choose to.
Yeah. Honestly, it'd probably be cool. Would you consider yourself like the guy who takes the selfie in the group hangout?
I mostly very rarely take pictures and especially selfies. It's practically
I mean,
unheard
but in a
of.
group hangout, do you are you the one with the camera or you're the one
No, no,
standing waiting?
no. I'm
Not
usually
you.
not. Yeah.
You're the one whose picture's been taken.
I mean, if I have the camera, the thing is, so right now, again, because photography gear is expensive,
I agree.
and good lenses especially so, and so right now I'm kind of not able to drop the kind of money that a really good lens warrants. So a
Hmm.
lot of the lenses I buy, they're like vintage glass. They're all manual focus, and so people now are so used to just whipping out their phone and pressing a button and immediately capturing a shot because there's like no fiddling required with it, right? It might not be the best shot photographically because you can't do a lot of things that you could do with like a regular lens, but at the same time it's super fast. So when everybody's there and you like trying to fiddle with the focus, trying to make sure that everybody's in focus and like the app, like it takes more time. And also because I'm inexperienced, I guess for a professional photographer, they would just do it super fast, right? But for me, it takes time, and everyone's kind of like, oh, it's just take the damn picture already, right? So, and that is also quite discouraging, right? Because you kind of
Yeah.
want to make a nice shot, and you sense their impatience because everyone's used to how quick it is. So there's that.
You know, when it comes to like image processing, I feel like one day there is a funny story I would like to share here, but not
Hmm.
today.
Okay.
But but when it comes to image processing, I feel like many people probably don't realize how much science goes into image processing actually.
Oh yeah,
Like
for sure.
it's a lot of science, you know. It's not
Yeah, yeah.
just Photoshop, you know. It's
Oh no, no, like the amount of actual hardcore science is ridiculous. Like I was watching a video recently about like the Black Magic new sensor and like how insane the actual sensor is and like the technology that they use, to convert light into color photographs at some ridiculous resolutions. And the amount of math and various algorithms that goes into that
Mhm.
stuff, it's just like
Yeah,
it's quite
yeah,
intense. Yeah.
yeah. I had a so the story actually, just a glimpse of it. I had a class one time in uni during my master's program,
Hmm.
and I saw the course. It was in the last phase of my program, you know. So it was at that point where you're just trying to take any course, just
Just
finish
get
it, you
enough
know.
points to take it over the
You
line.
just yeah, you know. So like I saw like image processing. So I was like, oh, cool. I guess you just learn
How to Photoshop things.
how to Photoshop this. Oh god, oh god, oh god. Anyway, it turns out it was really cool though. But yeah, it was then I realized like there is a lot of science that goes into these things.
As
It's
soon as
not
you open
just
it, it's all like matrix operations and convolutions and all that
yeah,
kind of crap. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Does this interest you though?
I'm not prepared enough mathematically to fully appreciate it, so it's kind of like, this is pretty neat, but it's like kind of
Yeah.
way out there for me.
Oh well, honestly, if you decide to pursue it, hopefully, like the thing is, I know you will go really into it when you decide to go into it. So I'm looking forward
It's easy.
to
It's
seeing how
easy to
far you
go.
go.
It's easy to go deep with the software because usually you can get like 99.9% of things for free, but with photography, shit's expensive.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's true, but you already have the camera, so like I
Yeah,
think
that's true. Yeah, yeah,
you're like 40%
yeah.
there already. Yeah.
It's
Anyway,
interesting, yeah, because it's a quite a quirky camera with a lot of limitations, which makes it more difficult, but probably more fun. And the company just released a new camera, like a brand new camera in their lineup, and everyone's kind of like scratching their head and be like, "What the heck is that?" So you
Yeah,
know.
but what's funny is that like even nowadays I realize that some people even take really nice pictures. I don't even know. You know what? This is worth learning about, but I should know because I took image processing. I should I should know. But anyway,
Much good
you
did that do
know,
to you?
well, well, now we're talking about it. So let's say
Yeah,
like this
no,
is one of it.
fair enough. Yeah, yeah.
So I used to wonder like, like the amount of like the quality of pictures that you take with like iPhone,
Hmm.
and you compare it with like let's say with a regular camera. Like you sometimes you expect the regular camera to have like a better quality than the iPhone. But I
Mm.
think iPhone is making a lot of effort to make sure that their camera becomes their selling point nowadays. Do you think like you could use this as well, like in your, or do you think like you would prefer to use like a professional camera and like stuff like this? Do you find like the quality of pictures you take from your phone good enough quality for you?
Well, from the phone, sometimes. And I'm not the one to really talk about it because I've just started and like I have some ideas that I like
You like
heard
me?
somewhere, but not
Hmm.
necessarily can justify through my own personal experience. But I just think that optically, you just cannot do certain things with the tiny lens that they have on an iPhone, and they have to like throw a lot of compute at it and like various AI models to like enhance those images to make them look nicer,
Hmm.
right? And they like simulate the things that the lens just gives me. Like, the portrait mode where, they
Hmm.
blur out the background. They have to simulate it all effectively because their lenses are not wide open. They're not fast enough to give you that effect just through optical means alone. And notice how I said fast. That's like a photography term.
Ooh. Look at you, Vasili.
I
Okay.
can drop the lingo now, and people will think that I know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about.
Mm-hmm. You lost me actually, because I was like, well, yeah, that must make sense. Anyway,
Right.
Vasily, hopefully, you enjoy it and
Yeah.
you get to,
Yeah.
you know what?
I should send you some of the pictures. Maybe I'll post some of them on
Yeah,
the blog. It's just right
yeah,
now I think it makes it a little bit annoying because it doesn't automatically attach files. I have to like manually upload them somewhere and link them out. But I'll post some photographs on the blog and you can take a look.
okay, yeah. Let me know.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I'll give you my candid ratings of this work.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I will for sure. Vasily, what I really wanted to talk about today is kind of something that I mean, I wouldn't say like, I don't even know how to say it, but I will share it with you. And it's an interesting topic, I guess. So, I was in a conversation with someone recently, and then she was saying that, oh yeah, she needs to get like a lot of sleep to be able to function well. We talk about sleep, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
know how we talk about all of these
A
things.
bunch of
So,
times. Yes.
yeah, a bunch of times. So she said she needed a lot of sleep to function well. This is a personality conversation. Anyway, so she said that, and then I was thinking to myself, like, well, how much sleep counts as a lot of sleep? And then she was saying that, oh yeah, maybe like 10 hours, like 10-ish hours, it's good sleep, like at least 8 hours. And then I started to evaluate myself. I don't know. When I get 8 hours or 10 hours of sleep, I feel like life has gone,
Do you track your sleep?
not religiously. I just know there is a data somewhere. Because I have a thing,
Oh,
like,
you have a thing, but does
yeah.
it actually track? I think if you go into your health app or whatever it is on Mac, or on iOS, I don't know, and actually look at how many hours you sleep at night, you probably will be surprised because you think you're going for 8 hours, but maybe you're doing like 6 at best. Because
Deep sleep or like,
no, like
okay.
just total number of sleep, right? Because just when you put the cover on and put your head on the pillow, it doesn't immediately count. It still takes you some time to fall asleep, right? And
Well, yeah, true.
so if you look at the stats, you may realize that it's like I've arranged my schedule to get my theoretical 8 hours, but that implies that like as soon as you put your head on a pillow, you immediately are out cold and fully asleep right away like that. And then you wake up exactly like 8 hours later. But that's not what usually happens because you're still going to be on the phone for a little bit and then you're going to like think about stuff that happens in a day and it takes some time to fall asleep. Like if you're lucky, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to fall asleep pretty quickly. Like these days, I fall asleep super fast, thankfully. But there used to be a
Yeah.
time where it would take like hours for me to fall
You know,
asleep.
I feel like
So,
I'm one of the lucky ones.
yeah,
Oh,
but unless you actually track it, you're
mhm.
probably not getting your 8 hours. And somebody, might have been, what's the gentleman? Huberman, potentially. Either Huberman or Matthew Walker, because Matthew Walker is like kind of all about sleep, and Huberman is like about brain, but they do talk about sleep quite a lot too. And it was either on Rogan or on Chris, like the Modern Wisdom podcast,
Oh yeah, that guy.
and he basically was saying, maybe okay, maybe it was a completely different guy, but anyway, the point is he was saying that enough sleep is the time it takes you to wake up on your own without any sort of alarm or any kind of device. So when
You
your
know
body
what?
wakes you up, you get enough sleep. As soon as you, like anytime you wake up using an alarm clock, you're not
Mhm.
getting enough sleep by definition.
Um,
Because the alarm interrupted your sleep when you weren't done yet. Your body knows.
I want to agree with this.
I mean,
I'm
you
not a
don't have to
scientist,
agree
right?
with it or disagree with
I'm
it. It's
what?
just how it
I'm not a
is.
scientist, right? Like I cannot even verify it or something, but I'm just using my body as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and I find like sometimes when you sleep too much and you just let your body decide when you wake up, you could oversleep. And when you oversleep, then I feel there is a realm
No,
like
what you're saying is true. However, I think it's true in the context of like chronic sleep deprivation and just messed up sleep cycle, period. Like, if you were sleeping without an alarm for a month, I'm pretty sure you would stop oversleeping. It would just not be a thing anymore. You just wake up and be ready for the day. It's just that because it's so out of whack. Well, first of all, with like artificial lighting. Second of all, with the devices and whatnot that distract us before bed and kind of get the brain revving in high RPMs. Like all of those things, the fact that people eat a lot of food before going to sleep, like not far enough away from before they go to sleep, like all of these things definitely mess up with the natural thing. And if you fix all of them one by one, eventually, if you fully normalize it, I don't think there's such a thing as oversleeping and then feeling like crap afterwards. Because I know exactly what you're talking about. You get all groggy, you get like headaches, you're very slow, like it's not worth it. I don't think that these things would happen. It's just a
well,
symptom in a chain of a lot of messed up behaviors that we do as modern
mhm.
people.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Anyway, so like in that conversation I was having with this person, she said like her reaction, like a behavior, personality is different when she doesn't get enough sleep. And she was asking someone else to verify her personality at her job, you know, like how she behaves when she, if the person can tell on the
Mm-hmm.
days when she didn't get enough sleep. And in that moment, I realized that, maybe we are all kind of crazy in a way, like, because maybe everyone has something going on. And sometimes you have a reaction to someone reacting in a way where, like, it's a consequential reaction. It's not really how they feel or what they think. It's just a consequence of their current state of mind.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and that could imprint on you as like this is who this person is, and you then run with it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just first started to think about it like I feel it's like driving, right? You want to assume everyone is crazy, so it's okay.
Yeah,
No,
I was actually gonna bring up the same example. It's like what the hell is this guy doing? It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe his wife is in the hospital and he really, really needs to get there. I'd rather
hmm
be wrong about like I'd rather be wrong about it, but then again, it's not going to be on me, right? It's going to be on the other person who's behaving like a crazy maniac. And
Yeah,
now I look back at the times when I myself behaved like a crazy maniac, and I still do occasionally, not to the same extent, of course, but let's not go there. Um,
story time, story time. You should give a little story time. No?
no, I mean, just being stupid, riding motorcycles really fast in residential areas at night. There's nothing particularly
Oh,
dramatic or cinematic about it. It
okay.
seemed like fun at the time, but in retrospect, it was probably pretty stupid. But you do dumb things when you're younger, so that's okay.
Fair enough.
Provided you
Fair
live
enough.
to tell the tale, and thankfully I did. So there it is,
Yeah, you're here.
the
You're
tale.
here.
Yeah, actually, I was actually thinking that sometimes people like, oh, you have to like set your grandiose life goals. And when I was thinking about it, like on a list of my grandiose life goals would be to never have to use an alarm clock again in my life. Like that would be ideal. If I didn't have to wake up to an alarm clock, that would be really good. I'd be pretty happy with that outcome in my life.
I think so too. You know what?
Provided,
I
okay,
never.
provided that I
I
maintain
think
a
so.
decent lifestyle. Because I think if I'm out on the street, I don't really have to anywhere to be to wake up with an alarm clock, but that would be pretty bad outcome in my life in general. So still, complexly,
Yeah, yeah, you have
among
to
other
balance
things,
it.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
You know what? The reason why I said I think so too is because just now when you mentioned that, I just calculated the number of alarms I have and I have to wake up to every day. Um, Recently I had to adjust it. It was getting too ridiculous. There is one at 5:30,
Oh, do you do
6.
the snooze chain?
Eh, Some days are like this, and some days you even wake up before the alarm. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
it'd been really
Well,
nice
I
to just
think
wake
that
up.
the snooze chain again is a symptom. Like if you have to resort to these things, that means that you're like critically undersleeping and your body is just like, I need more, and you like, no you don't, get up, right? So you got to go to bed earlier. And I think you have to go to bed not only earlier, but you have to go to bed at a consistent hour. And now that we had the daylight saving switch, today is the first
Hmm.
day of that. I freaking hate it because a week of on call got dropped in my lap, and effectively by the old time I would have to wake around like 5 a.m. now before, because it takes like a few weeks to adjust to the daylight
Hmm.
savings.
Hmm.
So this is gonna fucking suck, and I hate it.
It's okay. I mean, you go used to the timing thing really quick, and it's just a week. Maybe
Right,
yeah,
but
that's
it's
off
still
season.
like you have like a well-oiled machine to some degree, and then something comes in and just like throws a wrench right in the middle of it. And it's like, oh, it's just a week, but like there's still consequences, right? It takes time to readjust to the new schedule, and it takes time to readjust to the new schedule. It's kind of like jet lag, so it's still ass, and I would not recommend.
You know what? Yeah, I think I feel you. Because now I'm thinking about it, like, if I have to change my work hours, like, to adjust it to fit like what, I don't know. Yeah. Honestly, I'm sending you courage, Vasily. Hopefully you get through, you get through the week. Because, yeah, I can see how inconvenient that can be. And because after this, then you still have to adjust again to the one that you're used to.
Hmm.
And that could take some time.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we were talking about earlier, yeah? So like I was saying, would you being in a position where you actually manage people, does this ever come to your mind like everyone is crazy and then you feel like, yeah, maybe you can try to like understand people at their level of craziness, or you that would be too much.
I would say that I wouldn't necessarily call it crazy. It's just everybody has their own
Yeah,
specific
crazy in
set of
quotes.
circumstances. Everybody behaves differently. I think that uh, one of the benefits of living in a society is that through your maturation and being included into the culture, you learn to compensate for various negative and stressful things that are happening in your life, and not like snap at people at your work because they really have nothing to do with it. So, if people can regulate their emotions, like I remember having times where I was like in my pre or intra burnout phase, I was under a lot of stress from various aspects of my life. And like even my friends were telling me after, it was like I was like basically a completely different person, and I was trying to manage it like the best I can in terms of like how I would respond to things and overall.
Hmm.
But you know, sometimes it can take such a terrible degree that you just can't deal with it anymore. And hopefully you're not in a circumstance where you kind of have to remain where you are, because I basically had to bail out of like three separate different things and kind of just step away from everything because all of it was just grinding me down um, at the time. And but sometimes you may be in a circumstance where you can't, like you still have to wake up and go to the job that is causing you stress and deal with people that are causing you stress. So it's not a very enviable situation. Hopefully, people in it can find ways out of it sometime soon.
Yeah,
But back to your
yeah,
question of trying to, the thing is again, your impulse could be to try and accommodate people's circumstance, and I think you have to do it to a certain degree. But ultimately, you know, it's like everybody has problems, and those ones are yours. I have my own, right? Like, if I have to accommodate everybody with their problems,
hmm,
where is that going to lead eventually? Because the other thing, too, is like people may be appreciative if you accommodate, but then people start taking things for granted very quickly. You do it once or twice, and then there's just this expectation that you'll always do it, and they act very surprised when you don't, and they kind of start getting pissy. So I think ultimately those accommodations can be there in a minor way. Like if somebody says, "Oh, I have to like get off work early to stop by the store to get something," it's like, okay, that's not the big deal. But if somebody is consistently not doing something and be like, "Oh, I have problems at home," yada yada yada, you can kind of be sympathetic toward it. But eventually, it's like, well, work still needs to get done. Like, what do you expect me to do about it? Like,
yeah, fair
like
enough.
if you were to ask that person, it's like, what do you expect me to do about it every time? Not just this one time, but every time. The reasonable answer is, well, get rid of the person who's not doing any work and get somebody who does, because like shit still needs to get done. But nobody's really gonna admit that to themselves, because it's like, well, I I don't want to get fired, but I also don't want to, or I don't know exactly what the thought process is. I'm throwing a lot of assumptions, but I think you kind of get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah. And I have a follow-up question to this. So, if do you think being what's that word now? Compassionate? It's not
Mm,
compassionate. Like
compassionate
having
works,
some
yeah. Empathetic.
uh empathetic. Yeah, being empathetic should be part of a good leadership or a good leader's quality. Like, do you
Mm,
have to be empathetic to be a good leader?
not necessarily. I guess depends on your goals. I think that sometimes it's probably actually counterproductive for the reasons that I just stated. Because you can be very empathetic to everybody, and a lot of people, or like some percentage of people, will abuse that, right? And so it's easier not to start, because the the more you do it, the worse it becomes. um and I don't know necessarily how to formulate it. I was thinking recently, there's like these couple of these YouTube channels that like post these crazy chats that like some employers like call people who are on their day off and like demand they come in, and like acting like a complete asshole and like, do this or you're fired. And the guy's like, well, okay, I quit. And like there's this whole thing of some guys like getting called on his vacation or his honeymoon saying, "Oh, you were supposed to deliver that report. How come you didn't do it?" And the guy is like, "Well, I did delegate it to somebody else and you approved it, so why are you asking me on my honeymoon now?" And it kind of blows up from there. Like, don't be that type of manager. Like, but the opposite is kind of also like, you know, I don't know. And again, I haven't really been fully in that position where that would really matter. Usually, I can commiserate with people, like I can be empathetic, but ultimately, everybody has problems, and those ones are theirs ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the reason why I was asking is because I've always felt like my style of leadership would be to be to take into account of how people around me, like the feelings or like their personality, like treat everyone as they differently based on like who they are. Like try to
Well,
get to
yeah,
know
but like
people.
think about it. Like, let's say you have somebody who is constantly late because they always miss that bus because they come two
Hmm.
minutes later,
Hmm.
and they can say, "Well, I'm just not very punctual. That's not a trait of my personality." Like,
Hmm.
how much are you willing to account for that? That the person is like every day like late 15 minutes.
So, um, how I would have handled this would have been like if someone is late 15 minutes, I think we can negotiate. I mean, again, I have learned that there are certain people who actually have like less ability to actually keep to time. And
That's a
I
learned
have
ability. When I was very little, I had no ability to keep to time,
no,
and now I
no,
keep
no.
to time pretty decently.
It's a scientific thing.
I don't
I feel
care.
like
I don't care. It's a
this is
scientific
it. You
thing.
see,
But
you
that's the
see.
thing. Like, you can learn the skill to be on time. If you can set up 5 alarms for yourself to wake up at the reasonable hour, they can set up
Mhm.
5 alarms for themselves to leave at a reasonable time. It's like
It's true.
it's not a sufficient excuse, I feel.
No, we are just using this as an
Well,
example.
we're using
Like,
this as an example, yeah, but there are many
this is
examples
not
like
a
it.
yeah, this is not a real scenario. But in this example, I
Oh,
would
it's
probably
it's a very
negotiate.
much a real scenario. Like,
Really?
well, I mean, I observe it quite a lot, not at my own workplace, but I know of people who are like just constantly late with billion excuses, and they're constantly being accommodated, so they never change their behavior. They just constantly late.
So this is what I would have done like, as a leader in this kind of thing. I'll probably negotiate like, okay, so like if you're late 15 minutes or like any amount of time that you're late. But then again, it depends. You see, you know what? I don't know if it's the best way to do it, but I think maybe you'd have to stay extra time just to accommodate like your lateness. So like, and I noticed that if the person is not willing to pay the price for them being late, then it means that they actually don't care enough to have this position. Like, if there is a reason why you're late, but you're willing to make up for it, I think this will speak more about your personality.
Well,
No,
I
you
can
don't
I
think
can
so?
always find the reason why I'm late. Oh, the bus didn't arrive at the time, and the dog
Yeah,
ran
but are
in
you
front of
willing
a
to
bus,
stay?
and like, no, but the thing. Well, what if there's like a meet, like, I don't know, you have your daily stand up at 10 a.m. and that person comes in by the time it's almost over every day. Like, if even
Fair
if they
enough.
stay later for 15
Hmm.
minutes at the end of the day, that does not compensate for the fact that they kind of
Yeah.
disrupt
Yeah.
everything consistently. So, I'm
What I'm.
and again, like, once you start accommodating,
Hmm.
so okay, let's say your strategy is okay, they have to make up for the time that they've lost and they stay late, but they still did disrupt the meeting by coming in the middle of it. Now they don't have context. Now they're asking all these questions. So this is like, there's all of these other, what you call it, consequences and collateral damage
Hmm.
of the thing in the first place. So like, why would you be even willing to accommodate something like this for something that is a learned skill and they can improve on if they wanted to?
You know. you're right. What I'm learning now is that like I think you could be empathetic, but you have to know have some boundaries for your empathy. Like
Yeah,
there should be
exactly,
a line.
exactly.
Okay.
There should be a limit.
And
There should be like what I was saying is that if you have to accommodate, you do it a little bit. So there is like you're not an automaton with the iron heart who has no feeling and no empathy for anyone. You're not supposed to be that. You can be empathetic and you can commiserate with people their hardships, but that does not entitle them to just do whatever they want because they have something happening in their life. That's not how it works in a professional environment. And even though at times it may seem callous, and like again, I'm kind of going back to those um, maybe fictitious TikToks or YouTube shorts or whatever, where the guy is like, "Oh, my
you
wife has
watch your
cancer."
TikTok now?
No, I'm in general. I don't watch TikTok, but you know, I'm
Okay,
saying for
go
people
on.
that do, a lot of that content is on there. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, the guy's like saying, "Oh, my wife has cancer," and his boss is like, "Well, I don't give a shit. You're supposed to be coming into work today." Like, obviously, you don't want to be that guy, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy. True, you don't want to be that guy, but I'm trying to learn how to what would be like the good temp. I guess it depends
you,
on the
you
scenario.
you know the character of J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man, the main guy at the Daily Bugle newspaper.
Yeah.
Well, don't be that
Wait.
guy.
Yeah.
That guy's an
Yeah.
asshole. It's like, damn it, I want
Well,
pictures of Spider-Man. I don't care that your mom got hit by a bus.
well, no, I won't be that guy. But the thing is, I'm trying to find the sweet spot here. So
Yeah.
initially, before this conversation, I had the I've, I was always convinced. Like imagine, like before now, I've always said to myself, like my style of leadership is to pay attention to the people and like it depends on the pool, like whatever. Like if I'm like speaking of like 10 people, like in a team or something like this, I would like to understand each one of them, their personality, and work with them based on this personality. But then again, one time we had a conversation like this, and then you told me like this might be difficult because everyone, everyone, it's difficult to like follow, like depending on the size or like stuff like this, like it could be difficult to follow. So you as the person need to set the tone and have people learn your own personality and how to work with you. So anyway, so I have this in mind as well, and I wanted to like ask you. So now, in the conversation we're having now, that's why I was asking you about empathy and like trying to be listen and like compassion and stuff like this. But then again, now I'm less learning from you now that you know you need to draw the line, you need to have the boundaries, but maybe you also need to keep a standard, like and
Well, the
but
boundary the boundary is effectively the standard, right?
yeah,
Kind of
but
by
you see,
definition.
kinda, yeah, kinda actually. But here, at what point how far do you hold this standard? Like, say, for example, you are the team manager and like everyone, you have a deadline, like a serious deadline, and it it happens that one of the um senior devs who probably was supposed to help in this has a situation where they have to take some time off, like stuff like this. And what would you do? Like, what will your standard be? Because if you are in the midst of a deadline and your senior dev is taking time off, why should the other devs not ask for time off too? Like,
Well, I was actually gonna say the same thing. It's like
yeah,
as soon as you accommodate one person, everybody else would like to have the same accommodation, which again
yeah.
is, you know, I watched this video recently about it was about Simpsons and how there was this character, what is it, Ned Flanders' wife, and they had to basically
No, I
like,
don't understand.
I don't know exactly either, but the whole point was that they basically killed off the character in the series because the voice actress asked the company to like cover her transportation and give her a small increase in pay. And considering like Simpsons were doing incredibly well, it would not be such a big deal. But the company probably thought like, oh, if she asks for a raise, then everybody else will ask for a raise, and that just can't happen. So like on either side, if you look at it, you can find sort of pros and cons. I think for most part, I would say maybe you have to look at where the responsibility lies and where the locus of control lies for in that dynamic. So for instance, in a dynamic of somebody who's constantly late every day, if they come up with all sorts of excuses why they are, that means that they're not responsible for their own actions and they place the locus of control to something external, which
Mm,
means that
okay.
they have to fix that problem. Like they have to take control of their own life. But in the case of like the voice actress not being paid enough, well, it was not up to her how much she was getting paid. It was up to company. The company had to make that decision, and ultimately they made a bad decision, I would say. And maybe that doesn't entirely fit. I'm kind of coming up with this on a fly, but I think that that would be quite an important aspect of it. It's like who owns the behavior and whether or not you're kind of willing to continue with it. Sorry, what was your question again? I kind of got diverted off quite a
Yeah,
bit.
so like the question was like, how far do you hold this standard? You know,
Right, right,
like,
right, right. Well, I th- you want to be flexible. You don't want to be super rigid. It's not like, oh, you came in 5 seconds late. It's 8:00:05. You're getting penalized for that or something. Like that would be quite ridiculous. Again, I guess depends really on the industry and depends on like okay, like if we think a situation like something like a factory, I don't know, or a I don't know, a metal smelting plant where they have those blast furnaces that operate 24/7 and they cannot stop. So if you come in late even by a minute, that can potentially have massive consequences for everybody, right? Because the guy who's finishing his night shift, he's gone, and you're not there, and that thing is there holding like 20 tons of liquid metal ready to explode at any second. And if you're not there, that could potentially screw up a lot of things. So in that situation, being late even by like half a minute is not acceptable. So
I, I
it
think,
really
I think we
depends.
should, I think we should probably use a different example from like maybe not being late. Like
Okay.
maybe let's use something a bit more like um a bit more serious. I mean, lateness is serious, but yeah, something like which one should we use? Can you think of something? Maybe someone.
I don't want to. I don't want to inadvertently dox any of my colleagues.
Yeah, you would have a good example. Let's use one. Like,
um, well, I have to use example of my own because then I'm only doxing myself.
okay.
But a lot of times, and again, now you'll see in full color how big of a hypocrite I am.
Go on.
But well, most people who work in like the agile-ish thing, they usually get like
Mhm.
an X amount of story points assigned to them at the beginning of the sprint. And I like consistently not finish all of the story points. And I think I
Mm.
have good reasons for them, which are not always out of my control, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that
Mm-hmm.
happens quite a lot. But in order to fix that, I feel like I would have to
Uh,
abandon a lot of the things that I'm doing that are not captured in the system and therefore is not very visible, but I think that it's very valuable. So if I were to stop doing those things, probably the total value might go down. But at the same time, delayed deliverables have like domino effect further down the line. So I cannot extrapolate how big of a consequence it's going to be with the delays versus the other things that I'm doing in terms of like helping other devs or like working on some other complex things that like take time and take a lot of kind of energy. So like okay, in this hypothetical scenario, if you were my
Mm-hmm.
manager, like what would you do? Because I mean, I have fairly good reasons. Some of them are in my control. In theory, I could say, okay, and I tried doing it multiple times, but didn't quite work out. Where I would just be like, well, do not disturb me with your problems. I have all these story points that I have to get through. But again, people tend to ignore that and still come to me with questions, and then I'm compelled to provide a response, and that sometimes takes a while, which detracts from my kind of daily duties. Even though those other things that I'm doing are technically part of my duties as well, but it's just like it's really hard to account for all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, okay, practice now. I'm practicing. So yeah. I guess the first thing I would want to know is the amount of story points that you actually get, and if you could share this with like distribute it with some other members of the team, since you also spend time with these people. And I guess first I would want to know like how much is this story points, and think about how to distribute it, because if you work in a team where like, say for example, I know people who work in an agile team,
mhm.
sometimes they they don't distribute these points evenly. Sometimes they distribute the points based on like, oh yeah, like this person is supposed to be able to have this amount of capacity, but this person is also human too, and they have a life to live, and they say like, oh yeah, but this person is junior or like a new person in the team, so we're just gonna give you 3 points this sprint, or like
Mhm.
5 points this sprint. And then someone probably, because you tend to have more knowledge of the software or the application, maybe you could get like 15. So depending on how crazy
Mhm.
the team is. And um it turns out like the people who actually get this high number of story points also are responsible for helping the person with the 3 points, with the 5 points. So like they spend more time um solving these problems, which should also count as their story points.
It
And
should, but it
uh,
doesn't.
one solution that I can think of right now, I used to work in a team like this, and what we used to do at the time was that we would give the person with the highest, who is assumed to have like the most knowledge or like the most skill in the team, gets like extra points allocated for them to be able to manage like the rest of us who probably might have like questions or whatever like in the team. So this helps to like alleviate like a bulk. So they are able to actually dedicate more time because this is their job. So they help people to actually finish their points during the sprint. So because let's say they're supposed to take 15, but they only take 5 working points, and then they have like 10, and this 10 they can distribute it with the rest of the people. Um, at the end of the day, my solution would be to distribute these points, because if you consistently over time really cannot finish these points in the week, and it's not like you are coming to work and not doing anything. If like I can, everyone can see that you are actually working. It's just that you really don't finish this, like let's say consistently for the next 3, 4 sprints, 5 sprints. My thought process will be to distribute these points and give you more allocation to actually help people
There's not
with.
enough capacity. There's not enough people, and the deadline is yesterday. So,
Um, I find that if you, for some people, they're really good with like, solving other people's problems. And this could be a thing. Like you have floaters within the team, and I guess it depends on the team structure too. I find like if maybe the people that are considered like junior or like new persons, new people in the team who have like really small points, I find like if they actually get more responsibilities, more points, and give you less more, how do you say that? Like more freedom, like more time to be able to float around these people, you will solve more problems faster than you taking all the responsibilities and like doing all the work.
Hmm.
What you would do, I find, would probably be to like make sure that they don't burn the house, but at least they will cook the food. So they will cook the food. But at least they will cook the food. So I don't know, like this will be my idea.
Yeah.
So
No, it's a
I
fair
don't.
idea. It's definitely a fair idea.
So really, well, how do you rate my leadership right now? Like over 10, would you
Well, I
be
think
honest?
I think that everything you said is very reasonable, but then, once you start including other constraints about like the headcount and the deliverables and the timelines, and it just, in a perfect world it would definitely work, but we don't live there, and there's all these constraints that are kind of in a way. So no, it was a good analysis, and in fact this is
Ooh.
roughly kind of what is happening,
Oh yeah?
to some extent, but
Ooh, okay.
so yeah, there's that.
Oh, that means I did good then.
Yeah,
Wow. Look at that.
I don't see why not.
Look at that. I should probably start applying for those tech
You
lead
should.
positions.
You probably should. Because then you'll get a chance to understand how it really works.
You know what? Maybe if I think I'll give myself some more time, and then I don't know if I really like. I want to do like leadership at some point, but I don't know in what capacity yet. I guess I have to decide
Yeah, yeah.
where how it to be. Anyway, Vasily, we spent a lot of time talking today, and and I usually enjoy this. I don't know if I should keep you much longer, but
Well, I mean, we almost done an hour. If we start some new topic, it's gonna take like another half an hour, so it might be a little bit too
yeah,
much. And I think it's like a
yeah,
good logical conclusion to this. So
yeah,
yeah, I think it works out quite well.
yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you,
Thank you,
Mo, for
Vasily.
the question. Thank you for the analysis, the simulation, you know. And
You're welcome, Vasily. Hopefully,
yeah,
it works out.
hopefully it does. And in any case, whether it works out or does not work out, we will see you next week in the next episode. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.